Does it flood in Spring, Texas? That's the question I'm going to be answering today. Hi, my name is Jordan Schlacey, broker owner of 𝗀𝗡𝗄𝗚, and here at 𝗀𝗡𝗄𝗚, our goal isn't just to be your realtor, it's to be your resource. So let's go ahead and answer that question. Does it flood in Spring, Texas? It actually does flood in Spring, Texas. Anytime you are next to a creek or in a flood zone, you definitely have a chance of flooding. So there's a creek called Cypress Creek, and it has had some flooding problems, especially during Hurricane Harvey. Actually, now though, there has been a ton of flood mitigation, and there are a lot of ongoing projects to help alleviate this flooding. We have not seen any major flooding or any flooding to my knowledge since 2017. That's when Hurricane Harvey happened. So along Cypress Creek, there's a road called Cypress Wood, and you did see some flooding on both sides of the creek, but not the whole entire creek. They have recently purchased a huge piece of land, which was actually the 𝗦𝗡𝗏𝗏 Country Club, and 2 different golf courses over there. And that is a land that they are currently developing. They're turning it into a gorgeous park. It's one of my favorite places to go for a walk or to go for a bike ride. The trees are so old and so beautiful. There's a playground on one side of the river or the creek. And I am really excited to see how they continue to develop this, to see what they dig, and it's going to be really exciting. But yes, I always tell people that it did flood in Spring, Texas, because that is definitely accurate. But please keep in mind, spring is humongous. And I talk about this a lot in my Spring the Woodlands video, where I talk about where spring and the woodlands are. And I talk about all the different zip codes that you find when you are looking at Spring, Texas. So I don't have memorized how many square miles it is, but I believe it's either 7 or 9 zip codes, and it's huge. So the Woodlands is a master plan community in Spring. The bulk of Spring is Klein ISD, so I reference the Klein portion of Spring quite often. It's one of the most popular areas of Spring and one of the most affordable areas of Spring. The Woodlands is probably technically the most popular neighborhood in Spring, Texas, and a lot of people just reference it as the Woodlands. And there was actually a tiny bit of flooding on the south portion of the Woodlands in 𝗏𝗏𝗏. So do know that the Woodlands is made up of Spring, the Woodlands, Magnolia, Shenandoah, and 𝗏𝗏𝗏, and a small portion flooded in that portion of 𝗏𝗏𝗏 in Creekside Park, and then a very small portion, 23.6 square miles, so says the husband, and there's Bear Branch. There's a very, very small portion of the Woodlands that had a tiny bit of flooding that was near, I think it's called Bear Branch, and that's pretty much all the flooding that was in the Woodlands. Now there was Glenlock. What's the other one? There's 2 neighborhoods that border the south side of the Woodlands. When someone's in the room, I always ask them questions. It's a habit. So I never record with someone in the room except today. But so where else was there flooding? There was flooding on the southeast. In Northampton, there was a tiny bit of flooding, and that's another neighborhood in Spring. And then on the southeast portion of Spring, where you have Spring ISD, there was a tiny bit of flooding. And then as you get farther away, there are other areas that flooded. So there are areas of Porter that flooded, areas of Humble, there's areas of Conroe. I tell people pretty much every single city had a very small portion of flooding. Now, do I think you should be concerned about flooding here in Spring in the Woodlands? The answer is no. I don't think you need to be concerned. It's really easy to navigate around these areas that flooded or had some flooding problems, because we have flood maps and flood plains. And so I personally look up this data for my clients when I'm helping them buy, so they don't run into any problems later on down the road, or also so they don't have to purchase flood insurance. Now, flood insurance is very affordable. It's between $500 and $700 if there have not been any flooding problems in that particular area. And then every single seller has to disclose if the home has ever flooded, so we can look up on the seller's disclosure. So between those 2 things, and then don't purchase, I personally don't recommend, or I don't purchase in a 100-year floodplain. A 500-year floodplain is less risky, and I personally would purchase in a 500-year floodplain, but this is definitely a decision you need to make on your own, and I would love to help you navigate it. So did it flood in Spring, Texas? The answer is yes, but do keep in mind in Houston, you're pretty much at sea level or below sea level, and a lot of the Houston area flooded, especially downtown, but there are millions of people here, and we all live here even though we have some crazy weather sometimes. But again, my name is George Lacey, broker owner of J.O&Co., where our goal at J.O&Co. isn't just to be your realtor, it's to be your resource. So here in a second, there's going to be a couple videos that pop up right here, and then there's going to be a ton of information down below. We have ebooks and relocation guides. I have my blog, I have my search website. I would love to be the realtor to help you relocate or sell your house here in the Houston suburbs. So please reach out to me. I'll talk to y'all soon. Bye guys.